Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Security Live, live from New York. This is a special edition for the live audience here. We are live from New York with Security Live. My name is Himanshu. I lead the team of our worldwide security identity and governance specialists. We help customers and partners orchestrate their security outcomes using partner tools as well as AWS native security services. And I'm joined with my co-host here.
Well, hello there. Thank you, Himanshu. The name's Ryan Orsi. I'm also at AWS, running a team of partner specialists that work in security, identity, cloud operations, and high availability resilience. That's a mouthful, but it just means that our team's going to have a lot of fun with AWS partners, with customers all around things related to security. And speaking of partners, I've got one over here to my left. You're right. We've got Vibhuti from Saviynt. How are you, sir? Welcome.
Ryan, Himanshu. Thank you very much for having me. It's great to meet you both.
Thanks for coming on Security Live. We've been excited to hear what Savynt's up to. And before the introduction of Saviynt to the audience, we'd love to know kind of about you, sir. What's your story, your background? What do you do at Saviynt?
My name is Vibhuti Sinha, Chief Product Officer. My responsibilities are building the product and, of course, the roadmap and vision. This is very special to me. First time at Security Live. And just to let you know, my CEO, Sachin Nair, and I were having a conversation this morning. And he reminded me 10 years back, an event like this at reInvent. He and I went to a Netflix session, and he told me that we should be innovating and leading how Netflix charged and they built on AWS. So this is very special to me. I'm really excited to share the innovation, the thought leadership, what we have brought to the table. So today, we are not only leading from the front, but we have charted the unknowns. And I'm really excited to be here and share our stories with you both.
All right, that's awesome. And I think good to hear that our partners are transforming and innovating on behalf of our customers, which is something I think really we look forward to in the security industry. Tell us, Vibhuti, more about your personal journey. You know, how did you end up at Saviynt? And then we also want to hear, like, you know, what is Savynt's journey and how Saviynt is helping customers.
So straight, like everyone else in security, right? Vibhuti's probably got your college degree, your primary school education in cybersecurity, straight in to cybersecurity.
There might be a
no
twist.
ping-ponging around a little bit?
There might be a twist.
Absolutely not. So in fact, I started my journey with a services company, and I was trying to build mobile solutions, and this was back in 2003. And fortunately or unfortunately, I think we were a little ahead of the curve because till then iPhone was not invented, and companies didn't, or they were not investing too much with mobility solutions. So that brought me into the identity and access management space after we failed doing our business for the first 3 years. And that's how my journey with identity security started. So for the first 8 years, I was doing more of the services side of identity. And that became a pivotal moment for me because that explained me how identity and the identity implementations are hard and why they were failing. In fact, till 2008, 2010, less than 3% of identity projects were successful worldwide. And that's when, in 2010, the CEO of Saviynt, Sachin Nair, called me and he said, we want to build something on identity governance platform, but we want to build it on cloud. And I said, yeah, why not? Because I had no idea about how to build things on cloud. I had no idea about cloud. And I remember spinning up my first EC2 instance in 2011. And that's how my journey with AWS started. So if I have to break down my journey with Saviynt, I would break it down into 3 parts. Part 1 was building an identity governance platform as a service on cloud, primarily on AWS. The second part was more about building a converged platform. So after identity governance, how do you bring solutions like privileged access management and third-party governance, as well as app GRC solutions, and converge it into a unified platform?
And Vibhuti, I know we owe you an explanation for what I'm doing to you right now.
I absolutely know about the swear jar.
You know about the swear jar?
Yes.
Okay, I think the audience knows. I've been seeing them chime in, but GRC, we know, but does everyone know?
I think we can get a break.
We can get a break.
Yes.
It's like a product name,
yeah,
I believe, right? We're going to go ahead and just pay one in there for GRC, governance, risk, compliance.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you.
All right.
Keep on going, sir.
And the third part of our story with Saviynt is now bringing in the intelligence or AI part. I don't think we are going to use AI for the swear jar because then it will get filled up in like 2 seconds.
We kind of made a call on that this morning, and we said, audience, all right, AI is good.
Yeah, so the third part is where we are now bringing intelligence, AI, thanks to all the good work and the technology advancements which is happening in the generative AI landscape, is allowing us to bring in a lot of intelligence capabilities for our customers, and that's where the real power or the third phase of our platform roadmap begins. And again, thanks to all the good work we are doing with and partnering with AWS Bedrock team, I will share more details about how we are changing the landscape in that area as well.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Himanshu.
No, I was going to say, I think that's very relevant, like for somebody coming from the enterprise authentication and having lived the identity and access management space, like firsthand myself, I can truly empathize with the pain points that customers have had to live through or still have to go through with the complexities associated with identity and access management, especially after you read every single incident report or where and how these threats originate is because of a compromised identity.
Always.
I think it's becoming more and more important of why there needs to be not only safeguards around identity, but also the ease of use and simplicity, which is, I think, exciting to hear, Vibhuti, that you emphasize that, Saviynt is investing in that area. I do want to talk a little bit before we go into the three phases of transformation that you laid out as to what's happening in general overall as well. From what I recall back in the day, to your point, identities were mainly associated with, or enterprise and identities were mainly associated with humans. These were like folks behind, the machines making actions. As we moved into more and more of this API or application processes approach, this moved into what was called machine identities. But then there was also, to your point, the mobile transformation, which is where you could open up identities as a consumer to all of these mobile applications or software as a service applications. So with all these different identities proliferating, there was a need of federation and convergence. Tell us, our viewers, where and how do we see now the stage of that convergence when it comes to human identities, machine identities, and consumer identities?
Himanshu, great point. In fact, if I have to summarize, and I would add one more dimension of these identities, which is the AI agents identities, and I'll cover that as well. So if you look at identity governance and identity security platforms, for the last decade, we have been spending our time and investments in securing and governing human identities. And by human, you have your workforce or employees. You have external identities in the form of contingent workers, contracting workforce, supply chain vectors. Right. So how do you ensure that they get the relevant access to your cloud systems as well as hybrid applications? That has been the core problem and focus area for majority of the identity governance platforms.
Right.
But as a result of that, to your point, when the non-human or machine identities started growing up, a lot of the governance processes, they were not scaling up to meet the need for, let's say, how do you define the access review process for a lot of your API keys, or the kind of information or the access your tokens have, let's say, on your AWS services. How do you govern? How do you certify that access? So that became the second challenge or second problem statement what we started solving for. And I think where we are now going with this is that with the rise of AI agents, how are you going to ensure that they are having the relevant access? How are you ensuring that the agents what you create in a platform like Bedrock,
right,
they have the least privileged access? They are not having standing access or long-standing permissions associated. And more importantly, how are your processes scaling up in a way that somebody can review their access at a given point of time, but in a timely and predictable manner? So if you think about all these different types of identities, they all come under the purview of governance. And the most important part is that you cannot treat them in silos. A human can have access to an agent. An agent can also access another agent. So when you are designing a governance process or a workflow, the unification, the convergence plays the most important role, because your customers should not think about that they are dealing with three different experiences or three different workflows.
Absolutely.
It all should just just come in together.
And I was going to ask you, Vibhuti, could you give us an example, right? So you've used, I've loved the talk track. You're using terms ensuring or process or governance, different than actual like IDP or identity provider, right? But what would that process sort of look like in a typical example where machine or AI agents and human identities are interacting with the system? And you've used the term governance quite a bit. I mean, just for the viewers out there that maybe aren't so familiar, are we talking about regulatory compliance and proving that certain controls and policies related to identity and access are actually kind of proving, right, that yes, I have those controls in place. I am ensuring that person or identity or machine agent can't access this during these times, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe give us a little bit of a workflow example.
Absolutely. In fact, there's a joke what we use often in the governance world is that like identity governance is like doing taxes. Everybody
so super
hates
fun.
it.
Like it's just the best experience. No, I'm just kidding.
Like everybody hates it, but everybody has to do it. Like what's the thing which you ask any employee and they hate the most is me requesting access. So the whole notion of innovating in this space is that how do you make it as less friction as possible? And I'll give you a very typical workflow. For example, if I'm building a product which is built on, let's say, the principles of A to A and agent to agent.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
I will pay for you, Vibhuti. I'll get you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah, it's a very hungry square chart today.
And let's say if you are building a model context protocol server whose job is to interact with the data which is sitting up in Savynt's data lake, and you are ensuring that it gets available to a large language model application which is sitting on top of it. So the way the workflow would work is that the first and the foremost thing is what access the agent should be having. So there has to be a workflow defined wherein the owner of the agent is going to start requesting an access, and it could be an interactive process or it could be an automated process.
Okay.
But the first and the foremost thing here is that the owner has to initiate that process, and the owner has to ensure that the agent has the least privileged permission available or assigned to it, number one. Number two is once that ownership and assignment of access is given, then how long do you give that access? Is that access given to the agent in a persistent manner? Obviously not, because when these agents would be running and interacting with your MCP servers, then obviously it will be being done for, let's say, a finite duration of time. So that finite duration gets captured. To your point, it could be during office hours, it could be through an IP range, it could be multiple other dimensions like location, geographies. Once that is done, do you need any approval process to be defined for these agents? Like, for example, if you are the ultimate owner of your entire cloud ecosystem, do you need to go and approve it? That could be a human approving it, or that could be an agent who is going to approve on your behalf through delegation. And once that is done, then the last part which comes here is the provisioning process, which ensures that the relevant access gets given to that agent through real time or through a batch-based program. So that's, I would say, those are the like 3 or 4 different processes. And if you ask me, every organization will model this in a very different way. And that is why identity governance becomes difficult, because identity governance is not a technology problem, it's a business problem. Every organization will have a different business model, different way to orchestrate this. That's why it becomes extremely relevant to innovate in this space and ensure that you are meeting the needs for all your modern organizations.
Well, if you ever want to expand your portfolio and get into tax preparation, it sounds like tools like what processes that you're an expert at there would be very, very helpful, Vibhuti.
But I like the analogy there, Vibhuti. I think what you're highlighting here is like, like all enabling businesses to be able to effectively use AI and or agents in the future with model context protocols and communications effectively, but at the same time be able to do the taxes, aka hence like be able to prove the governance. And if there are security best practices that need to be followed for making sure that your keys are not long-lived or they are properly rotated, or like you have following regulatory compliance needs, that all is taken care of.
In fact, Himanshu, I'll add a little more to that point, because if you think about today how accesses are requested for, it's very hard. Like, for example, if you go into an access request system, you are looking for, you mentioned the term federation earlier. Mm-hmm. You might be federating your access to Salesforce via an Active Directory group. Now imagine a finance person requesting access to Salesforce, but they have to understand what does this Active Directory group really mean.
Oh,
I think with generative AI, what now we are looking at the future is that you come and say that I need access to run a financial report for my quarterly earnings. The system, go and figure out what access do I need. That's what we are building. That's what the future is.
Yeah, so I think this is the second element of like how you are leveraging artificial intelligence to like actually enable the secure use of artificial intelligence and agents, which is I think like very, I would say like like associatively very complex. But I wanted to distill it for our viewers that this is again a great example of using AI and Gen AI to help advancing the use of Gen AI and AI for businesses.
and to simplify the whole process. I love that example. And I've worked with many of folks out there that you're presenting them with a solution, a technical solution, but their job might not be so technical, right? And they need to just get a certain job done. Project management of a project. They don't need to understand Active Directory per se, right? They just need to know I need access to X to get my job done. And I love what you're doing there, Vibhuti. To get back to your roadmap, I think you kind of teased us a little bit about sort of what the future is looking like at Saviynt. It's just us talking here. There's no one watching. I'm sure you could talk about a roadmap. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to
So as I mentioned, the third phase of our roadmap is all about embedding AI into an IAM platform like ours, but also doing identity security for AI. I think that is a much bigger play. That is what and where our energies, our focus has been. So as I mentioned, you have a phenomenal rise of AI agents, which is all good. The first and the big problem there is how do you ensure that organizations have the complete visibility of where all these agents are? These could be AI agents. These could be your model context protocol servers. There's a lot of configurations, security configurations, tokens, API credentials being stored in these agents and tokens.
And it's not like every employee in the company is only working from a physical office perimeter with a one, IP space, right? Everyone is everywhere.
Absolutely. Like the lines have blurred. So the first problem statement, what we are tackling on our roadmap is that how can we help organizations to have or build that inventory, comprehensive inventory of anything and everything which is happening on the AI space, which could be the inventory of their agents, MCP servers, etc. The second part is more about how do you ensure that these agents are having the right access, least privileged access, zero standing access, as well as their configurations are secure from a security standpoint. And then the third part, what we have been working on is how do you certify periodically from an audit and compliance standpoint to ensure that these agents, they are having access, the right access, they are being approved by the right people/agents, as well as if I have given them a particular set of permissions, then they are actually using that permission. So looking at their activity, looking at their audit events to ensure that they are compliant and they are being governed effectively. So these are the three big rocks what we are trying to do.
And everything's producing an audit event or an audit trail that can be used, I'm sure, to prove compliance, to your point as well.
Yeah, because I think like identity is a very cornerstone like when it comes to like detection and response as well. And I know like I think Savynt's done a great job, and I think you mentioned this earlier, Vibhuti, where like changed credentials or assumed roles and assumed identities is a complex issue already. But when we talk about like these assumed roles jumping between human identity to machine identity and machine to now a form of machine identity, which is agents, like it creates more complexity for security operations team as well. And I think there's been terms used like which is called identity security posture management and or identity detection and response. Are you foreseeing where what Saviynt is doing will help those personas as well?
Absolutely. And in fact, I would like to show a demo to our audience and to you all to explain how we are doing this. So when I think about identity security posture management, the whole notion is building a comprehensive and compendious identity warehouse, which starts with your workforce, non-human identities, as well as machine identities. But the most important part, what you're seeing is anything and everything which is associated with that identity in a timeline view gets stitched together for you. This is the most important part for any organization because this is very siloed and fragmented, and it takes a lot of manual effort to build this view. So starting with what your identities have been doing and helping you in audit preparedness. Same thing goes for your non-human identities, giving you the complete inventory of your API keys, your tokens, your servers, but also telling you the different visualizations of the relationships of who are the owners, what risk are you carrying from a non-human identity standpoint. And further expanding this to your agents, this is where we are building the inventory of all your AI agents, what models they are using, as well as what are the different security configurations do they have. Do they have any kind of guardrails which are missing? And can you start expanding and can you also start governing why the particular agent is missing guardrails? These guardrails could be, do you have prompt injections which have been disabled? Or somebody has disabled the logging activity of these agents. So all in all, this is the first aspect of identity security posture management, and Himanshu, to your point, cutting across your human, non-human, and AI agents in terms of ensuring that we stitch together all the activities, bringing you a timeline view of what these identities have been doing, giving you the inventory.
And I don't know if I saw that correctly or not, Vibhuti, but did I see a attack path into like the identity and its relationship to other objects and resources out there?
Yeah, so
that
for
was
that,
really interesting.
Yeah, I'll show you another demo for that as well, where we also talk about the attack paths. But the important part in the second demo, what you would see here is the first part is the effectiveness of your governance controls. So the second demo also translates into you have governance, but how effective your certification process and your request processes are. Most of the times, organizations don't have that baseline. But to your point, Ryan, on the risk detection side, this is where we show you the complete chart of what are your different risks residing, whether it is applications or whether it is from an identity standpoint, and the attack path of how an application or a user is tied to an account, to an entitlement, to an asset. So that allows you to basically understand where your derived risks are. Do you have SOD violations, etc. And the last part here, I would sum it up again, is the power of large language models. See, identity data, we are amassing a very, very large set of data coming in from your identity systems, from third-party security systems. Often, it has become hard for enterprises to understand the meaning, the relationship with this data. I think with the power of platforms like Bedrock, what we have done is that we give you this simple large language model NLP-based layer, which allows organizations to interact with this data in a very easy manner. And any persona, whether it is a CISO, whether it is a CIO, or it could be a business owner, without having any reliance on SMEs, without having any reliance on engineering team, without having to deploy a security or a BI platform, they can interact with this data in a very easy manner, understand the insights, understand the nuances which they have on the identity platform.
And hats off to your user experience or UX team over there. Vibhuti.
Yeah.
That just looked great, right? That was easy to understand, easy to follow.
And not to mention, I think like when we talk about cloud native services, I mean there are tools that like IAM Access Analyzer we talked about in the morning,
right.
For our audience, like go back and check what Byron Cook was talking about with regards to automated reasoning. But Vibhuti, correct me if I'm wrong, but Saviynt's been leveraging some of these detection tools or cloud native services to actually inform and enrich the information that you just showed in this amazing user experience.
Absolutely, Himanshu. In fact, everything what you just saw is completely built natively on Amazon, starting with S3 as the backend, as our data lake, Athena as our distributed query engine, Bedrock being our LLM provider. And we are integrating heavily with IAM Access Analyzer, IAM Identity Center to give you all these deep insights, what you just saw.
Very, very amazing product you've built there, sir. Vibhuti from Saviynt, thank you so much for being on Security Live. And folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Thank you. Thank you very much.